Produced in high definition by Fox 50. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight, a Spanish parent's cry for help. And she was burned alive, but lived to tell. NC Wanted in high definition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Gerald Owens. Welcome to NC Wanted. We see it all too often, brutal crimes against innocent victims. But tonight we bring you stories of survival. We're talking about unsolved cases involving victims who live to tell their stories. Tonight, these extraordinary victims speak directly to you because they desperately need your help. Katie Lopez is a few weeks from starting kindergarten and she can't wait. A family friend comes over to visit her mother and father on the night of August 5th, 2006. He's not there for long before Katie grabs the man by the hand and leads him outside. She points out some constellations she's recently learned about. She also shows him the nearly full moon, explaining that on the other side of the world it's daytime.
Wonderful. That's it. You're so smart.
The friend has bought Katie a treat. She enjoys the snack as the two watch television together, while her mother and father talk in the kitchen. But the peaceful late summer evening is shattered when two armed men burst through the front door demanding money in Spanish. The men say little else before they start shooting. Katie panics. She jumps up from the couch and runs from the gunman into the arms of her father, Salvador, who by that time has pushed his wife down the hall and out the back door.
The whole incident happened very quickly. They asked for money and then started shooting. It only took a few seconds to a minute or so.
They opened the door and started firing. I didn't have time to think. I just heard them enter and I got up immediately.
Katie makes it to her father's arms, but he can't stop the bullet. She's hit in the temple. Her father is hit in the arm and chest. He carries his wounded daughter out the back door where his wife is waiting. Realizing what has happened, the gunmen run out the front door, passing the terrified family as they escape empty-handed. A neighbor calls 911, but it's too late for the young girl. Both father and daughter are taken to the hospital, but only the father leaves.
Anytime that you work a homicide, it becomes personal. But when you have a beautiful 5-year-old girl, knowing that she can't make her parents smile or make her friends and family smile, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about Katie personally.
When this first happened, I went to my priest and I talked to him about it. I wanted to die, but I do forgive them. But now we are just so sad at the death of our daughter. We just don't understand who would want to do this.
It has hurt us terribly. We can't imagine who would want to do this. I don't have an enemy in the world. I can't imagine anyone who would want to do this to us. It is so unfair.
The agents have little more than a vague description of the two suspects given by the victims. One is a tall, muscular black male who was wearing a gray t-shirt, jeans, and white tennis shoes. He was bald and had no facial hair. The other man was a shorter black man with a mustache. He was wearing a white t-shirt and dark pants with a white stripe. Some vehicle descriptions have surfaced, but none directly linked to the crime.
There's a very good chance that the suspects in this case are local. There's a good possibility that someone in the community has the key that we're looking for and that one clue that will lead us to Katie's killers.
Initially, investigators were working around the clock, following leads that were coming in steadily. But in the past several months, the case has grown cold.
We have hope that God has not forgotten us and will not forget us. We believe that eventually these people will be caught because we trust in God.
She was bright, smart, and for two people to enter her residence and brutally murder her, it's just absolutely a worst nightmare for anyone to think about. I just really want to solve it for Katie and find the two that are responsible and bring them to justice.
Investigators in this Duplin County case have little to go on beyond eyewitness accounts from the little girl's Spanish-speaking parents. To solve this case, someone with information needs to show some courage and come forward. If you know something about the murder of Katie Lopez in Wallace, call our hotline toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or go to ncwanted.com and click Report a Tip. Your identity will be kept confidential. Tonight, more details on the capture of Target 20 fugitive John McCormick. According to Phoenix police, during the early morning hours of Friday, August 31st, a Phoenix officer making routine rounds approached three men hanging around after hours in the parking lot of a residential park. When the officer demanded his ID, McCormick handed him his revoked North Carolina driver's license. The officer took the license, ran a check, and the rest is history. Tonight, McCormick sits in a county jail in Phoenix awaiting extradition to North Carolina. John Gregory McCormick is the fifth capture on our Target 20 list, and it happened because an officer was just doing his job. Still, keep those tips coming because we have plenty more people on our list.
This picture of Sherry was maybe 2 or 3 days after it happened. How could anybody do that to another human being?
Coming up, a savage attack rattles quaint Southern Pines. The survivor story of Sherry Bean, burned alive and left for dead. Tonight's NC Mystery is next.
Welcome back to NC Wanted. Tonight we're bringing you cases where the victims live to tell their stories. Tonight's NC Mystery is an attempted murder that rocked the peaceful, affluent community of Southern Pines. We want to warn you, some of the details in this case may upset sensitive viewers. Sherry Bean is a young mother who got caught up with the wrong crowd. Tonight you'll see how this woman's troubled life spiraled out of control and how she fell prey to a brutal attacker who beat her with a brick, covered her with pine straw, then burned her alive.
Hey baby, you want some cereal? Okay. Want a big bowl? Okay. Alright, hon. A lot of milk? Mama, gotta go. Coming.
After I found out what had happened to me, I was just disgusted with myself for what had happened, that I had let my addiction get to the point of no return. But there was a return. I know this has happened to me, but I do believe things happen for a reason.
I'm still unsure of what the motive was that caused this to occur. It's definitely a very sick person who can do this to a human being.
July 2003. Sherry Bean wakes up to the bright lights of the J.C. Burn Center in Chapel Hill. Her right arm is gone, so is her hair and 3 fingers on her left arm. She has no idea what happened. Her mother is standing by her bed. Patricia Bean has been driving 3 hours round trip each day to see her daughter since March, when she was admitted. Sherry has slept through countless surgeries and skin grafts to repair the third-degree burns that covered 40% of her body. She nearly died 10 times, and when she first awakens, she wishes that she had.
I was a 27-year-old woman. My mother isn't supposed to always have to take care of me. I realize now that she's not ever going to be able, to push me out of her nest and let me fly.
On March 25th, 2003, at approximately 8 o'clock in the morning, the police department received a call.
Moore County 911.
There's somebody laying in the building naked, bloody. They thought she was dead, but when I walked over there, she moved.
Tree service was cutting trees on Fire Lane in Southern Pines, and it discovered a white female had been burned inside of a forestry abandoned building.
And I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to learn to do anything. And I couldn't, as much as my mother and father had been through, I couldn't just give up. I had to try.
She was badly burned about the head and chest area, upper leg area. Her hair had been completely singed off. She had a massive wound to the right side of her head from where someone had violently struck her with some type of object.
I couldn't give up because the person that did do this to me, if I gave up, they would win, and I'm not going to let them do that. I'm stronger than that. I'm a better woman than that. They're not going to beat me.
Sherry starts smoking pot in high school and early on is diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She starts abusing prescription drugs and soon discovers crack cocaine. She has a son at 19 and quickly loses parental rights. She has another son at 22. She holds down a job, but by the time of her attack, her drug use has evolved into a serious addiction.
Just because I was a drug addict, I didn't deserve this. No one deserves anything like this.
No one deserves what she went through.
And then what my son had to go through, he was 5 years old when this happened. He's 10 now. I don't know what's going through his head. I can't even imagine the thoughts that are going through his head.
I think he knew what happened to his mom, yet when he went to school, his grades were almost all A's.
He is a very strong little boy, and I do know he will make the right decisions in life, and he will do good.
Sherry comes home in February of 2005 after 11 months in the hospital. By this time, she has learned that someone was arrested for attempted murder 4 days after her attack. 2 weeks later, he was set free. Sherry Bean doesn't remember much, but on March 25, 2003, she is beaten with a brick, set on fire, and left for dead. 4 days after her attack, the Southern Pines Police Department files charges against David Rashawn Shaw, an 18-year-old boy with an extensive arrest record that includes assault and animal cruelty.
The person went home in the very early morning of March 24th with blood on his clothes, on his shoes, and went to his stepfather and told his stepfather what he had done. At which point in time, the stepfather went to the Southern Pines Police Department.
Shortly after the incident, we received sufficient evidence to go before a magistrate, which he actually issued an arrest warrant. Subsequently, we arrested someone.
So after the confession was made, they did not have any evidence that he confessed. In other words, they didn't get his signature.
Shaw's stepfather, Marshall Holman, has an extensive criminal record that includes numerous arrests for assault against a female and writing worthless checks. A preliminary hearing is held, and the stepfather denies ever telling police that David Shaw confessed to the crime. There is little else in the way of evidence, so Shaw is released.
If they had no emotion for what they did the first time, beating a person and then setting them on fire and letting them burn, what's going to stop them from doing it again? I couldn't hate someone bad enough to do something like this to them.
At the time I checked, he had been arrested 12 times previous to the time that he supposedly or allegedly attacked Sherry. How can you have a person confess to it, and because of some unfortunate legal and some police mishandling, as far as I'm concerned, he went off free.
David Shaw currently sits in a jail cell less than 20 miles from Sherry's home. He was charged with robbing a convenience store in June of 2005, and more recently with shooting a man in the abdomen in August of last year. He was initially charged with assault with a deadly weapon, but was ultimately committed to prison on a second-degree kidnapping charge. He's looking at a projected release date of November 2008.
Justice really didn't prevail in this case, or hasn't yet.
The case against Sherry Bean's attacker is plagued by far more than an unsigned statement. It was months before police were able to interview her about what happened that night, long after David Shaw had been arrested, then set free. Sherry remembers police being frustrated that she had little memory of the attack or her activities leading up to it. She has no idea why she was attacked and had never met the man originally accused of the crime. Also, the case suffers from an apparent lack of physical evidence. Items were sent to the SBI lab for testing, but it's not clear what information that provided.
I went back to where I was found, and it scared me. I just looked around, and then I had to leave. I couldn't handle it. I was hoping if I did go, maybe something would try to get back in my memory. But I do remember being at a party with a lot of people and doing a lot of drugs.
All she remembered was he was a black male, taller than she was, and she was 5'5". And having struck her with a brick numerous times and her falling to the concrete, that's all she remembers.
I do remember I stole my father's car, went out and partied all weekend, took my father's car back to where my mother worked at. And then the next thing I remember, I woke up 4 months later and I was in the hospital at UNC Chapel Hill. And my right arm was amputated, and I didn't know why.
I try to be as diligent as I can to process them as thoroughly as I can, to try to collect the evidence at the one time when you can, and take that evidence along with the crime scene images and try to put it together to lead you to a suspect.
I think it was just a full comedy of errors, really. It was very, I hate to say it, unprofessional. I would quickly add that they're not used to this kind of crime. To give them a bit of a break, maybe that's an answer, but it's certainly no answer that's going to help Sherry.
I would like to see it solved and someone arrested, probably not more than Sherry Bean would.
But it does help to know that they have to live with that for the rest of their life. They have to think about what they did to me every day.
But to Sherry, in many ways, it doesn't matter. She can't put on jeans by herself and remembers getting so angry she screamed when she recently tried to make a pot of macaroni and cheese. Really, she says, the person capable of beating her and setting her on fire is likely incapable of regretting what happened.
But I think for a person that did this to me, I don't think that it would affect them in any way. I don't think they have any remorse for what they did. Any sorrow, any regret, nothing.
I know there's someone out there that has information firsthand that had to at least witness something or has been confided by a person who had information about this case.
In the meantime, Sherry Bean survives. Every so often, she'll visit a group of people, sometimes school children, and talk to them about the dangers of drug use. Other than that, and the occasional shopping trip with her mother, she doesn't leave her house that often.
You know, the worst thing is I have forgiven the person that did this to me, but I haven't forgiven myself. I have a lot of regrets, self-pity. My family, I mean, they have to sit back and look every day at what happened to me. And that's always going to be there. And it's not like I can hide my scars. And my regret is what my son will have to live with, the way his mother looks for the rest of his life. I just want the person that did this to have some sorrow, something.
Sherry Bean has endured 28 surgeries since the attack. But in terms of the investigation, not much has happened since the charges against David Shaw fell through, and no one else has been named a suspect. Investigators remain optimistic that this case can be solved. That feeling is based primarily on their confidence that people in the community know what happened that night. Because Sherry has little memory of the weekend before the attack, any information about her activities or whereabouts in the days leading up to the attack would be helpful. Stay with us. We'll be right back to recap tonight's cases in just a moment. Welcome back. Time now to review tonight's cases. First, the unsolved homicide of 5-year-old Katie Lopez of Duplin County. Investigators are desperate for the public's help in finding the two men who burst through her family's door one night last August, shot her in the head and her father in the chest. There's a reward for information leading to a conviction. Next, the brutal attack on Sherry Bean in Southern Pines. Investigators want to know about her activities in the days and hours leading up to the attack. And they're certain someone in the community has information about what happened. If you know anything about either of tonight's cases, no matter how insignificant you think it might be, pick up the phone and call our hotline at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to ncwanted.com and click on Report a Tip. You don't have to give your identity. Remember, together we can fight to preserve the quality of life we hold dear in North Carolina. I'm Gerald Owens. Thanks for watching. Good night.